Hey, I'm Geeky Pastimes, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about whether or not we should be worried about Halo Infinite. If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to see more content about Halo, Call of Duty, Battlefield, all kinds of stuff, put the notifications on as well. So, Halo Infinite is a game that lots of people are talking about now. They've announced a release date. It's going to be coming out in December, at the beginning of December, and there's lots of reasons people are starting to get worried about it, or continuing to be worried about it, as they have been for the last year. Now, what I'm going to try and do in this video is kind of talk you through how did we get to this situation, and how do I feel about those concerns and about those worries. So Halo Infinite was first announced way back in 2018. Back then it was said it was going to be on the Xbox One and PC. I think even back then the idea was that always that it would be on the next gen, but obviously they hadn't announced the consoles then, so that's why they said it was Xbox One. I don't think this is a game that was originally ported from the Xbox One, although obviously that is one of the release platforms. They're releasing it on a ridiculous number of platforms. Like, you've got the Xbox One S, the Xbox One X, the Xbox Series S, the Xbox Series X, and PC, which is just insane. But they revealed it in 2018, and then in 2019 they confirmed it was going to be a release title for the Xbox Series X and S, which everyone I think was excited about. Like, that's a super exciting thing to have a Halo game launching. And actually, even though obviously that didn't end up happening, on the Xbox Series X box it sort of features Master Chief fairly prominently, like as if you're going to be able to play Halo Infinite when you open this console. In 2020, they showed it off at the E3 that didn't really happen. So, you know, around the time of E3, they did lots of conferences still online, and they showed a bit of the campaign of Halo Infinite, and there was an overwhelmingly negative response. Now, personally, I thought it looked great, and I remember specifically watching that presentation, and I was sitting there with my wife on the sofa watching it, and I was like super excited. I was talking to her about how excited I was. I thought it looked great. I thought like the driving around looked like loads of fun. I thought the grappling hook loads of fun. The shooting looked good. I was really happy with it. I thought the environment looked really nice. Then I went online, checked on Twitter and stuff like that, and everyone was like, oh my god, this looks terrible, and you start getting the memes about Craig and things like that. People were really down on it, saying it looked terrible, saying it looked unfinished and unpolished and stuff like that, and I was a little bit taken aback. Now, I could potentially be a Halo fanboy, so even though Halo 4 and 5 weren't everyone's cup of tea, I really liked them, and I enjoyed the multiplayer a lot. I really liked Halo Wars, both of them. I got super excited when they put a Fighting Raven cabinet in an arcade that's like 20 miles away from me, but still, I'm excited about that. So I do really like Halo. Like, I find it easy to like Halo. I'm not super critical of it, which is probably why I love the Halo Infinite trailer so much when so many other people were down on it. So they ended up delaying it. They ended up saying, and which I think was a very brave choice, to say, okay, this isn't going to be a console launch game. The Xbox Series X is not going to have this big like flagship launch title. Instead, they're going to delay it to 2021. And they didn't tell us when in 2021 it was going to come. I think some people like me thought it would be like, oh, it'll just be delayed a while till March or something. Then March came and went, and it got further and further into the year. And then we did start getting some other stuff. So we started getting a multiplayer trailer, which I thought looked really good. I thought that was quite exciting, and it showed off lots of the customization, the new AI bits and stuff like that. I thought that was all really exciting. And then we got the first flight, and one thing that they did that I think was really good for Halo Infinite is they didn't put an NDA on that first flight. So that first flight, the technical test, everyone could play it if you'd signed up to the thing and you got selected. I shouldn't say everyone could play it. I know lots of people wanted to play it and weren't allowed. But you could play it, and it was able to be streamed. You can make videos about it. I did some videos about it and some streams, and I think most people had an absolute blast with it. It's like, the performance wasn't there. The performance wasn't very good, especially on PC, and there were some glitches and things like that. The bot behavior was just weird, and it was just matches against bots, except for like 2 hours of play against other people. But it was so much fun. Like, the core mechanics were so good, the game felt really good, all the customization stuff was really awesome. I think people really liked it, and that's really solid. Like, that was something that was really good. Then they announced a release date of December 8th, but they also announced around the same time that there was going to be no Forge and no campaign co-op at launch. I think campaign co-op's going to come about 3 months after launch, so that's what, looking at February, March time, and then Forge is going to be coming 6 months later, so next summer. And people are starting to get worried now because there's only 3 months till launch, just over 3 months, and there's still no campaign footage. We still haven't seen like the new version of the campaign compared to when we'd seen it before. We haven't seen the changes that they've made. We haven't seen hardly anything about the campaign at all in terms of like, what's the gameplay going to be like, what sort of places are we going to be fighting in, what are the enemies like, all stuff like that. Now, they have been quite transparent about lots of other things. They've been doing these kind of blogs that are really good. They've been doing these videos. They've been doing loads of stuff to kind of talk to the community. They're really open about why they've delayed campaign co-op and Forge, and just saying like, okay, they really need to focus on getting the campaign done. Those things weren't ready, so they're going to be pushed back. But that even with all that transparency, they still haven't showed off campaign. And I think that's got a lot of people worried, thinking, are they hiding something? Are they going to release this and it's going to be an absolute mess? Is this going to be something like Cyberpunk, where the delay wasn't enough? Now, personally, and this is kind of the point of the video, I don't think so. I don't think we should be worried about Halo Infinite at this point. And I'll explain to you why. First of all, the only thing that we've actually played of Halo Infinite was super positive. Like, that whatever you want to call it, the Halo Infinite flight was so much fun. I think people really enjoyed it. People who were like long-term members of the community, massive Halo fans, really enjoyed it. People who are maybe newer to Halo, who were used to other first-person shooters, had a great time with it. There was loads of content creators really enjoying it, which is a really nice thing to see, especially if you compare it to, say, like the COD Vanguard alpha recently, which that was a similar thing. First time we got to play new Call of Duty, you could stream it and everything like that, and hardly anyone covered it after the first few hours it was live, which was really strange. Halo Infinite, people were playing that all the way through and people were really enjoying it and talking about it loads. So it's like the only real evidence we have of what it's like to play has been super positive. We haven't had like worrying previews from journalists or anything like that so far. Joseph Staten and Frank O'Connor, two people who were there with Bungie, like working on a Halo series before, they're both working on it in really high up positions. And I've heard lots of people saying like, oh, you know, Halo hasn't been good since 343 took over. I disagree with that. Like I said, I enjoyed Halo 4 and 5. I think what they've done with Master Chief Collection has been absolutely awesome. But also, there's people, like some of the key people who worked on Halo originally are working on Halo Infinite. They've also had a whole year longer than they expected. So when it comes to game development, obviously people like set a deadline, and I imagine most of the developers want to hit that deadline. They expect to hit that deadline, so they try to get stuff finished for then. So I imagine in November of last year, they probably had a playable game. They had a game that could be released, that could work. It was probably kind of okay at least, and now they've had an extra year to add things that they wanted, to change things that they wanted, to tune things that they wanted, fix bugs, improve stuff. So I feel like that extra year is going to be really, really good for them, and it's going to be something that, like, obviously they've decided they didn't need to hit the launch date, they didn't need to hit that set deadline. They could have delayed it 2 years, they could have delayed it 3 years. The fact that they've been quite definite about this December date makes me think that they're probably quite confident that they've got a product that like is ready now. They've had the extra time they needed for that and are going to release it. And alongside that, sort of connected to that point, the fact that they've delayed the campaign co-op on Forge because it's not ready makes me think the main campaign is ready, and the multiplayer, like, that makes me think like the main campaign of Halo Infinite is ready, because if it wasn't, why wouldn't they just delay the whole game till next year, which I know is something a lot of people are called for? Why wouldn't they just push everything back? It's not like Xbox are having trouble selling the consoles, like the consoles are still sold out everywhere, so that's not an issue. It's not like they're having trouble with Game Pass, because they've got loads of crazy good games coming out between now and the end of the year on Game Pass. You know, you've got Back 4 Blood coming, you've got Forza Horizon 5 coming, you've got some really big games there that people are going to enjoy. So there's not really a reason for them not to delay Halo Infinite if they needed to. So I think they've delayed the parts that they weren't happy with, the parts that don't meet their high quality standards, but the campaign is ready to go. Like, the campaign is good enough that they're happy to do it. And when you listen to some of the video documentaries, they talk about the fact, you know, they've completed the campaign multiple times and are really enjoying it, they're still having a good time with it. With how transparent and honest they've been about the rest of the development process, I believe them. Like, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on this. And then also, the last thing that I think is really important, and I think would be a very strange choice for Microsoft if there is something wrong with the campaign, multiplayer is going to be free. So multiplayer is free to play. You don't need Game Pass or anything like that. If you've got an Xbox, you can play the Halo Infinite multiplayer. That means that if you go to the store and buy a boxed copy of Halo Infinite, the only thing you're getting is the campaign. Now imagine if someone, you know, for Christmas or something is getting Halo Infinite, that's their like one present, their one game, it's a box copy, they've paid, I'm assuming, like 60 quid for it, I'm assuming that's how much it'll cost. And then if the campaign was rubbish, if it was buggy, if it was unfinished, if it was just a bad experience, that's the only thing you're getting for that. There'd be so many complaints, people would be so angry about that. I just don't think they're going to do that. I think they must have a lot of confidence in this campaign to be releasing a product at full price that just has that section of it. Now, obviously, this might be me being optimistic. Maybe there are problems. Like, I was hyped about Cyberpunk before it released, and I thought, okay, they've had all these delays. It's going to be good when it comes out, and obviously, it absolutely wasn't. Like, Cyberpunk was an absolute mess. And that's, like, the big thing that I think has got people worried about this, is Cyberpunk's still fresh in a lot of people's minds. They're very worried about Halo Infinite. But like I said, I think it's going to be okay. I think the Halo Infinite campaign is going to be awesome. I think the reasons they haven't shown us too much in the trailers are maybe that there's some features or there's some mechanics that we don't know about yet that they want to surprise us with that's going to be awesome. Maybe they just want there to be more of an impact when it comes out, like people seeing the world for the first time, seeing what it looks like now. Maybe like that's going to be a big reveal, and they'll do it closer to release date, so then people will be talking about it, buzzed for it. Remember, it's still not coming out for another 3 months, so they've got a little while that they need to like keep the hype going. They're going to have more multiplayer tests between now and then, so that'll do its job. We might not see campaign until just a few weeks before launch, and then maybe they'll start hyping that up. So I wouldn't be worrying just yet. I think there's still a lot of reasons to be optimistic about it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you still excited about Halo Infinite's campaign? Do you think they should have delayed it to be at the same time as campaign co-op, stuff like that? Let me know. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.